the conversation should be, are we having children out of wedlock still, raising kids without being in a two-parent environment? We have to have conversations that's cultural, that changes the mindset of how people operate. This generation, millennials, geriatric millennials, boomers, Xers, Gen Z.
I came across a fascinating discussion on Anton Daniels' show, and I found this conversation that he had on one of his platforms a fascinating conversation. I believe this is the After Hours show that he does. And so this conversation centered around the Black community and how we can sort of reform the Black community and go back to grassroots, go back to sort of restructuring, almost like this reconstruction of the Black community, of what it's going to take in order to do that. And so I thought this conversation was extremely fascinating with Anton Daniels giving some very positive recommendations to reform the Black community and sort of bring the conversation back to where it needs to be in order to see the fruition of this reformation, if you will, of the Black community. So let's get into this conversation, and I'll give my opinions and thoughts throughout this interaction. Let's get into it.
So what does that look like on a local level of policing your own community?
What do you mean? What does that look like? You got to change the cultural norms.
Right. So what's that?
Because listen.
How can I go to my community?
Hold on. Let's be for real, Jamisha. We know who the killers and the dealers are. Mm-hmm. We know who the pedophiles are. We know who the people that's going to be slanging. We know who the jack boys are. We know who everybody is inside of the culture, inside of the communities when you live in these communities. We see them walking up and down the street every day. Mm-hmm. But what we do institute is a no snitching rule, protect them, don't say nothing, free man, even though this motherfucker was doing drugs and killing everybody inside the fucking community. We got the shirts on, fuck the police. It's a part of the music and everything, right?
I agree.
If we really wanted to make a change within our communities, we could.
Right, but I want.
And that's good. Yeah, we could if we wanted to. But the problem is that we have this culture that says we don't want to be a rat. Someone who is going to rat and tell on a criminal, tell on somebody who's doing evil things or doing bad things or causing chaos within the community. Now that person is seen as the villain, right? Instead of that person being seen as someone who did the right thing. And what does that do? That goes against the culture. That goes against what the community needs, the Black community needs in order to reform, in order to rebuild, in order to reconstruct and build a fruitful culture, a culture that's going to sprout and grow the younger culture, and we'll have a more vibrant and a more satisfying environment if we do the right thing. But unfortunately, within the community, that just simply is not the case. That's not going to happen because of this stigma of being someone who is a rat or someone who's not going to tell on someone because they did bad things. That culture needs to change. This vilifying the police, things like that. That stuff needs to change, and until we do these type of things, we're going to see the same results continuously.
To know what that looks like. So I understand what you're saying, and I wholeheartedly agree. We need to be able to have these conversations within our own communities and check ourselves. We, but we don't, because we struggle with whatever we do. So I'm asking, if I wanted to go into my community and bring talking points of police in my community, you speaking to general, I want to know what's talking points of what that looks like in this current state of our country. How can I what
do you mean talking point to who are you
to my community, the Black and brown people that's slinging dope and
you can't
so those souls is lost to you.
Yes
Okay,
you got to start all over. And this, I honestly believe this.
I'm asking questions.
You can't solve for the people that's already in it, that's already deciding that they wanted to do it, that embrace the culture. It's got to start at the children's level. Listen, these people from a certain age up through it, it's over for them.
I agree with you.
I agree with that. Yeah.
You're not changing nobody's mind that's 37.
I've been saying.
You not the only way he gonna change his mind is if he have a life moment because he hit his fucking bottom and he just tired of living like that.
I mean, there's some truth into that. And as me being a Christian, me being a believer, I do believe that God can do an amazing work of regeneration in one's heart to bring them into salvation, to Christ. But I do agree in the sense that yes, man, once a man or a woman is like stuck in their ways, man, it is like hard to change their mind and get them to come out of that way of thinking, right? So that is a challenge. That is an incredible challenge. So as Anton is saying, because I believe Anton's a believer too, even though he's cussing and everything, but nonetheless, he's a believer too. And he understands the idea of someone becoming a Christ, someone being a believer, coming to Christ after some stuff that happened and God calls them out their sin. But it's also this idea where Anton is pointing to is that, man, it's extremely difficult. It's hard to bring someone out of that. So just sort of jettison that idea of trying to reform or reconstruct that individual's line of thinking. Instead, let's start from the children. Let's get down to the children. Let's get as young as we could possibly can and start building from that foundation instead of trying to reform and change the minds of those who've been stuck in their ways for so long.
Drastic, yeah.
You gotta start early, and that's why the conversation should be, are we having children out of wedlock still, raising kids without being in a two-parent environment? We have to have conversations that's cultural, that changes the mindset of how people operate. This generation, millennials, geriatric millennials, boomers, Xers, Gen Z, it's over for them.
And as I said, of course, I think what Anton is saying is that, man, there's really no hope for them changing their mind. Obviously, I would say we still want to have conversations with them. We still want to reach them. We still want to communicate with them. We may not obviously reach and be able to sort of reform or change the minds of all of them. But certainly, I think it's worth the time and effort to reach some of them. Some of them are going to change, right? And some of them are going to redirect their path of thinking, right, into a more positive and a more fruitful way of thinking, one that's going to cause the family system to flourish. And so we don't want to dismiss everyone. I disagree with Anton in that regard. I do believe that we can talk to those adults, those Gen Zers, right? Those millennials, those baby boomers. I do believe we can have those conversations with them and continue to talk about these things that are important, these things that are going to cause the Black community to flourish and go in the right direction. So I would disagree with Anton in that strict, rigid sense of it. I think we can have conversation, but I do believe what Anton is saying. I do understand what Anton is saying, though. He means to, like, you got to start from when they're babies, basically. I do understand what he's saying.
You save who you can by saying the message and letting it fall where it may. But these people have already made up in their mind. They got it made up in their mind what they gonna do, when they gonna do it, and you can't tell them shit.
So and those kids are represented by those parents. With those,
take them out and you take them with you, and the rest of them, fuck the culture.
But how can you get to those kids if they still got parents that is ignorant?
What do you mean? How can you get to the kids?
How can you?
No. I'm not talking about kids that's already like with single baby mamas. I'm talking about kids that are toddlers. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Anton is saying, man, we should get down right at the foundation, get them when they babies, right? Get them when they babies and grow them in a fashion and train them in a fashion that's going to be fruitful. That's going to be God glorifying, right? That's going to lift up the name of the Lord. That's going to do these things in order to grow a culture within the Black community that is going to be fruitful. That is the idea that Anton is coming with. That's his point of conversation, his point of reference, and that's his idea, what he believes is good. And I have to agree with him.
I'm talking about those that can't even read and write yet. I'm talking about way that you can put it down in them. Because you got to remember, I'm a believer. So I believe that spare the rod, spoil the child, put it in them when they're young, it'll never depart from them.
Mm-hmm.
Core thing. Divorce? And they get to the point to where they're in middle school, high school, it's fucking over.
Do you believe in divorce?
No.
All right. Okay.
I don't. I've been married for 20 years since I was 22 years old.
13 in the building. I hear you. I'm just trying
26.
And if you notice Anton's last point, she asked Anton did he believe in divorce? And I think Anton answered correctly. No, he doesn't believe in divorce, right? He said he's been married over 20 years. So that is a good foundation right there to start a family, a good foundation for a family, should I say, is that the idea of a man and a woman being married all the way to death, right? Until death do you part. And that is how God's design is for marriage. And I think if we start there and stop dealing with stop having this idea that I don't need a man, like for females, I don't need a man, I don't need to get married, but having a bunch of babies out of wedlock, that's going to do nothing but corrode the foundation of the Black community. And obviously it corrodes the foundation of God's design for marriage and family. If we have this idea that, so I don't need a man, I can do it on my own, I'm an independent woman, all these baby daddies and things like that, that is not good. That's not in line with what it means to have a great foundation for a family foundation. And we all know that if we want to see the Black community regather itself, if we want to see the Black community regroup, and if we want to see reform in the Black community to where we're having conversations about family instead of having conversations about the struggle of the Black single mother, then we need to start at the foundation of family. It is vitally important that the Black community understand that it is foundational to have a husband and a wife with children. Whenever we have households that just have a single mother household, the percentages of violent crimes, incarceration, all these things skyrocket, right? And then we have the audacity to complain about Black men being incarcerated at a higher rate than other ethnicities or other groups of people. That's a ridiculous argument because it starts at the foundation. It starts at the family. Man, stop abandoning your family. Women, stop claiming that you could do it on your own and having several baby daddies. That is not going to go well for us at all, right? So it's vitally important for us to understand the foundational need for family, the foundational need for a husband and a wife and their kids. If we start there, we'll see great reform within the Black community. Thank you for watching this video, and if you appreciate this content, make sure you subscribe to Freedom of Black Thought. May God bless you, and may God keep you.